And welcome back to another video in the TNL Tips video series, which is focused on short elements here that can help you be more successful in teaching in our online Canvas system. Today we'll specifically talk about grades. And the somewhat confusing thing about grades as you're teaching here at the college, and it's really no different compared to other colleges, is there's two places you really need to look at grades. There's grades inside of Canvas, which really allows you to customize everything, the auto grading that Canvas will do for some of your multiple choice quizzes. All that happens inside of the Canvas LMS as you log onto Canvas. There's also a Passport gradebook. The Passport gradebook was used in the old days before we had Canvas, and it's basically the way that you use to submit all of your final grades in your class. The confusing thing about it is the Canvas gradebook and the Passport gradebook can't interface in any way. The systems are not set up currently to talk to one another. So at the least, at the end of the quarter, you have to take your final grades from Canvas, A, B, C, D, or F, or an incomplete in some of those cases, and then you have to put those into your Passport gradebook. So I'm just going to take you through both systems. I'll show you how they work, and I'll show you the very quick way that you might approach setting up your gradebook and Passport to just do letter grades that you'll have to submit to our admissions department at the end of the quarter. I want to also remind you that Treva and John Kingsbury and Treva Thomas have done very lengthy videos on both of the gradebooks inside of Passport and inside of Canvas. You can check those out for all the nuance and detail. This is the quick video just to get you started to show you how to translate grades from the Canvas gradebook into the Passport gradebook. So let's jump online now. Alright, so we're going to take a look at grades today, and I just want to remind you that you'll be working with grades in two different places. Really, my goal in this video is to explain those two places, not do a deep dive because we have a number of great tutorials that John Kingsbury and Treva Thomas and myself have provided. I'll reference those in the PDF for the deep dive. Just click on those icons and you can choose those. The goal of this is to give you the most simple introduction to the two gradebooks, how to use them together, how to incorporate them, discuss some of the challenges, and also provide simple ways for you to work with both the gradebooks so that you don't feel like you're overburdened with a ton of features, and certainly, as I'm always saying, a ton of mouse clicks or scrolls on your trackpad. I'm always trying to reduce the amount of work you have to do when you're doing manual labor, and particularly preventing, carpal tunnel and all that kind of stuff that certainly impacts many of us, as well as eye strain too. So minimizing your time on screen is definitely a goal of this as well. So let's first start with the Canvas gradebook. So to get to the Canvas gradebook, you'll click on Grades here. And I'm not going into the settings. There are settings throughout Canvas, and you can watch my video in the course details area to get a better sense of how to adjust some of the gradebook features. I try to go with simple is best with my approach, but you can always do it your own way. When you first log on, you'll notice some menus up here, individual group view versus gradebook history. This is a blank class because of FERPA. I'm not showing you any grades, obviously, so just follow along and realize when you get to your class, you'll see individual students and grades and names, of course. You can do filtering up here. You can arrange in all sorts of ways. This is really great. Once you do this, it'll default to that until you change it. Kind of obvious, but by due date, by points, by module, by assignment name, and so forth. So have at that as you like. You can also filter assignment groups and modules. So if I have a discussions group, all the discussions would appear followed by, say, all the quizzes or all the papers in the next discussion or in the next assignment group, whatever that is. I can also look at statuses here. That is really good to know. This is color coding. You're probably wondering, what the heck does this mean when I log into my gradebook and I have a bunch of greens and then I have some pinks or some oranges? Well, it means that the student may have resubmitted something, that it's missing, it's late. If you do dropping or excused absences and that kind of allotment, the color coding is really your friend in Canvas Gradebook. So at any time, just to refresh yourself and say, what the heck are those color codes, go to statuses, and then that will give you all the color coding. And that's pretty cool. Now this is cool too. If you wanted to, you could actually change these up. If they weren't already used, if you wanted to click yellow here, then you would have to, or I would say you'd want to change yellow to an unused color. I guess it actually lets you double these up, but for me that would get kind of confusing if they're the same. So adjust that as you need, or if not, keep it all the same. I think the defaults are pretty good on that. Again, that was on view and statuses. You can also look at notes, unpublished assignments, where we looked at views, arrangement, and then this is import and export grades if you need to use that. So kind of handy. You can also do some shortcuts, and this is the shortcut menu that would allow you to go to a quicker form of grading in Canvas. If you're doing a lot of repetitive things, this might speed things up a little bit. So click on the keyboard icon, as you know from the Rich Content Editor, to get a more specific view. You can also search, and then this is a series of settings. So this would be useful to look at if you're just setting up the class for the first time. If you want to apply grades for missing submissions, like I would apply it as a 0 in my case. All I'd have to do is go on there, hit a 0, and then the gradebook in Canvas will automatically do that. Likewise with late assignments, you can decide based on an interval or a time, even an hour or a day, the deduction percent, and then what's the possible lowest grade. Is it a 0 or is it a 70, and so forth. So customization galore here in the Canvas gradebook. You can do the grade posting policy. I received a few questions about this. If you see a detail at the top of your gradebook that says manual, and you're saying, wait, why does the assignment say manual? It's because you have it on manually post. So this means basically you have to do everything. I keep it, and my recommendation is you keep it on automatically post grades, particularly if you have an auto grading setup for some of your quizzes, your multiple choice quizzes. This is going to save you a heck of a lot of time as opposed to having everything manual. Now, if you want students to meet with you before you discuss their assignments or whatever, then of course you want to do manual posting because you want to control the flow of information, of grade information back to your students. I put it on auto, but it's totally your call again, however you teach and grade. And then allow final grade overviews. So if you have someone that is maybe at an 89.99% and you want to bump them to an A, you could do that. This doesn't really matter because, as I'm going to talk about today, Canvas does not populate, does not take your final grades and put those into our registrar or admissions or one-stop final grades. You have to do that through passport grading. So this is really for your convenience so that you can update your records and then transfer those final grades if you want to do an override for a really close percentage to the next letter grade. And by the way, LTCC does letter grades, does not do plus and minuses. If you're curious, we don't have A minus or B plus, but sometimes the grade systems recognize it as such. 87 being a B plus in the real world versus in our world of doing grades, it's only a B, even though it's really close to an A. And thus, that's why some people like to do the final grade override for that purpose. Other than that, again, we're not going to see what this looks like, but you get the sense each of these will have a student down here, and you can always sort things by student's first and last name. You can also, I know in grading assignments, you can hide students' names if you want to do anonymous grading, and that's something you would do in another menu, which we won't get into, but reach out if you have trouble with that, and I can help you out. So this gives you a lot of sorting possibility for students. All your students will appear here, and then you'll get a series of columns and rows, so you can easily put in each of the grades for week 9, unless you've done that in another place. And very clearly, you probably know that when you go on to your Canvas class, you might do a lot of your grading of assignments via the speed grader. You might go in and click on your discussion. Again, this is a bad example because we don't have anyone here in the class, but I click on my speed grader, and then this is where I put in all the grades, and it says there are no students in the class, but you would be able to quickly go through student by student, put in all the grades, and then what happens is when you go back to your grade book, those will all be entered. Or again, Canvas is full of options for you. What you could do is, you'll have all the students here, and you'll have all the possible rows and columns with the points. If this is out of 16, it'll say 0 out of 16. You could start here and go down. And by the way, tabbing is not super easy in a lot of the gradebooks we have, so it's just a little issue there. You sometimes have to figure out a mouse combination, but in any case, and you could set up hotkeys for that through some of your other software, but sometimes you have to click, 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 but you could do all the grades here. So 2 options there. If you want, you could grade via the assignments that you've set up using the speed grader in your discussions, in your quizzes, your papers, your assignments, or you could do that via the gradebook. Once you do that, then the score will appear. Again, keep in mind, you might want to start with the speed grader would be my recommendation, because then you're going to have availability of the rubric if you set one up, and you also have the ability to add comments. It really depends on you. I like to use this view of the gradebook to deal with any outstanding or missing student submissions. I can look at them, and then if I know there's a student excuse related to it, I can make an adjustment or an allotment via the scores here. So totally your call. So that is Canvas Gradebook. At the end of the quarter, you will have your entire summary, including, say, all your categories and how many points or percentages. You can choose how to view things. And then you can have your total points here. You can display it as points, which is how I do it all the time. And I really like that for my grading purposes. You can also display it as a percentage. So again, very customizable to your interests as a faculty member, how you like to grade. And by the way, the other thing that will happen, I did not mention this to you, but if you look at the longer tutorials, when you create your assignments or you create your discussion boards, all of these eventually, including your assignment categories, get automatically loaded into your gradebook. So the minute I create an assignment, the minute I add points to it, and I hit publish on that assignment, whatever that is, it appears in the gradebook. Now, if you do an ungraded survey, which is technically a quiz, it will not appear in the gradebook. Again, the gradebook is only concerned with graded items, so that's one thing to think about. You could create something like an extra credit category and add that in. It gets a little tricky doing that with averages and so forth, but there are some opportunities for extra credit within Canvas settings. If you want to know about that, reach out and I'll be happy to help you out. So again, the scenario is you're at the end of the quarter, you're ready to do your final grades. They're going to display here. Okay, you might have your percentages, and you can take those, and then what you'll do is you will go to ltcc.edu. This is the main website, and I'll expand the menu. You'll want to log on to your Passport logon. Once you do that, you will have the option to select your gradebook. I'm going to pick one here, and if I have anything related to student names, I will definitely go ahead and blur that out so you don't see any FERPA issues. So this is a great place to start. Gradebook has not been set up for the section. Go to the Gradebook Setup Wizard to create the gradebook. So here's my recommendation. In the old days, before Canvas, we did all of our grades for our DE classes, our face-to-face classes. We didn't have ISP at the time, on the Passport Gradebook. The Passport Gradebook is definitely clunkier than the gradebook inside of Canvas. It's just not as full-fledged and easy to use from a, in my opinion, from a user perspective. So what I would recommend is just do what they say here, because essentially you'll only use your gradebook for the final grades. And this is another reason we want you to have a Canvas shell set up for every class, because you can track your grades in here. It's not a requirement. You don't have to do that. If you have a face-to-face class, you can just use Passport Gradebook. If that's the case, then I would build out all your assignments. Again, I'll link to John's tutorial, which is really good, on the Passport Gradebook. I won't go over all that. So I'll just show you the easy setup wizard. This is what I'm going to do for all my classes. It's so easy to do. Scroll here, LTCC default template. Don't even select any of this stuff. This is default time period, and then hit submit. And then magically, I hit submit again. You are done. That is it. And I'll show you this. I'm going to blur some names in post-production. So I'll do my final grades, and it's super easy. What I'm going to do is have my Canvas gradebook open with the scores or final grades, however I have that set up, or percentages. Whatever information I have here, I might even have an Excel spreadsheet if I like doing it that way. I sometimes actually download via the export, the Excel file, pull it up, and then I can customize my own columns very easily in Excel, delete some, and I have kind of my own system. If you're curious about that, I'd be happy to show it to you. In any case, you're going to take your final grades from here and just transfer them into here. So if the person got an A, you type an A, type a B, and so forth. That is all you do. When you're ready to do that, you'll hit submit, there'll be a warning. Once you've done that, your final grades are in, and if you want to change any of the grades, you do have to go through the one-stop, reach out to the folks there, and do a grade change for any changes in grades. And I know ISP has sometimes done that, and ISP has also given out what's called an IP grade. ISP is kind of its own different setup in terms of some of the grading, including some of the deadlines and all that. So if you have questions, reach out to Shane, to Amber, who's running the Sociology ISP program, to Tori and ISP, your department chair, and they could definitely help you out with any of those gradebook submission issues connected specifically to ISP. So once you're done with this, you hit submit, and you're done with the class. So that is it. Again, there is no way to get the Canvas and the Passport gradebook to talk to one another. You have to manually import those into Passport. But in all honesty, it shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes really to get that done. So that is it on the two gradebooks today here, Passport and also Canvas. Okay, that'll be it today, focused here on grades, both using the Canvas gradebook and also the Passport gradebook primarily to enter your final grades. As usual, I'll be back with additional videos in this series shortly.